The first time I heard that siren wail through our quiet little neighborhood, it felt like déjà vu from every disaster movie I'd ever watched. The sky was bruising over, thick gray clouds rolling in, the kind that look heavy enough to crush the world beneath them. My phone buzzed with the warning, severe storm approaching, seek shelter immediately. I dropped my wrench, I'd been tightening a loose gutter bolt, and muttered, not again. Last summer's storm took half my roof. I wasn't about to repeat that mistake. Just as I started lowering the garage door, I heard her voice. Really, Mike? You're hiding already? It's just a little wind. Karen, my next-door neighbor and self-appointed president of the HOA. She stood in her perfect floral dress and heels, holding her toy-sized dog like a trophy. Even the storm seemed to pause for her judgment. I sighed. Karen, it's not a little wind. The National Weather Service? Oh, please, she interrupted, waving a manicured hand. Those weather alerts are designed to scare people. You believe everything the government tells you too? I glanced at the sky again. The clouds were turning greenish, never a good sign. The air felt electric, like static before a lightning strike. Look, Karen, I'm just trying to be safe. You should get inside. She smirked. You sound like one of those paranoid preppers on TV. What's next? Digging a bunker in your backyard? Behind her, her husband Greg awkwardly adjusted their patio umbrella, clearly wishing she'd stop talking. Even her little dog looked uncomfortable, ears twitching at the thunder. I took a breath, trying to stay calm. I'm not being paranoid. I'm being smart. You'll thank me later if this turns bad. Sweetheart, she said with a condescending laugh. If the wind knocks over one of your garden gnomes, I'll personally replace it. I wanted to roll my eyes, but the thunder answered for me. A bone-shaking crack that sent birds scattering from the trees. Greg flinched. Karen's laugh faltered for half a second before she covered it up with a fake smile. Then, in the distance, I heard it. That low, haunting rumble that didn't sound like thunder. More like a freight train. My stomach dropped. Karen, I said slowly, that's not thunder. She frowned. What are you talking about? I pointed toward the ridge where the trees were bending unnaturally, twisting like they were being pulled into the sky. Her smile finally vanished. I whispered, that's a tornado. And then the sirens screamed again, louder this time. The second the sirens blared, the air itself seemed to change. Thicker, heavier, humming with tension. Karen's smug grin melted away, replaced with wide, blinking disbelief. She turned toward the sound, her heels sinking slightly into the soft grass as wind whipped through her perfect curls. Greg shouted, Karen, get inside, now! But she didn't move. She just stood there, frozen like someone who'd realized the monster in the story was real. I grabbed her arm without thinking and pulled her toward my garage. She resisted. Of course she did. Mike, let go. I'm not running into your dingy man cave. Fine, I snapped. Stay outside and argue with nature. Lightning cracked. Close. Her tiny dog yelped and wriggled out of her grasp, sprinting toward my house. Greg ran after it, yelling. That finally did it. Karen stumbled after them, clutching her dress as the wind ripped at her sleeves. We made it inside just as the gust hit, slamming the garage door like a giant's fist. The lights flickered. The world outside turned into a roar of flying debris and howling wind. Karen clutched her chest, gasping. Oh my God, is this really happening? Yup, I said flatly, grabbing my emergency kit. Still think I overreacted? She shot me a glare that was half fear, half embarrassment. You don't have to be so smug about it. I almost laughed. Even with the sky tearing itself apart, she was worried about her pride. But then a loud crash shook the house. Something big, maybe a tree, hitting close. Karen screamed. Greg pulled her down beside him. For a few minutes, all we could do was listen. The wind howling, the debris battering my siding, the faint whine of that siren buried under chaos. I kept an eye on the weather radio. The voice crackled through the static. Confirmed tornado touchdown in the Meadowbrook area. Residents are urged to take cover immediately. That was us, Karen whispered. Our house. Our house is right in that area. Greg tried to calm her, but I could see it in his eyes. The same thought haunting me. If the tornado shifted just a few hundred yards, everything outside this garage could be gone. The noise grew sharper, like the wind was screaming our names now. Then, for one terrifying moment, it all stopped. Dead silence. Karen looked up. Is it over? I didn't answer. I just stared at the tiny window slit above the workbench, where the light had turned an eerie, swirling green. And then, the sound returned. A freight train right on top of us. The roof groaned, the walls trembled. Something heavy tore loose outside. I grabbed Karen's arm again, shouting over the chaos, "Get down!" A crash, a flash, and then blackness. When I opened my eyes, everything was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. For a second, I didn't even know if I was alive. Dust hung in the air, catching thin beams of morning light that cut through what used to be my garage wall. My back ached. Something heavy had fallen near me. The workbench, maybe. I turned my head slowly. Greg was sitting up, coughing hard, his face gray with dust. Karen lay next to him, eyes blinking rapidly. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. Her floral dress was ripped at the shoulder. "Everyone okay?" I croaked. Karen groaned. "My head. What happened?" "You got lucky," I said, scanning the mess. "The tornado must have passed right over us." The smell of splintered wood and wet earth filled the air. Half my roof was gone. My truck's windshield was shattered. The hood crumpled like paper. And beyond the broken wall, the neighborhood didn't even look real anymore. Just twisted metal, uprooted trees, and roofs scattered like confetti. Karen pushed herself up, staring out in disbelief. "Oh my God," her voice cracked. "That's our house." I followed her gaze. Across the street, where her two-story colonial had stood so proudly, was nothing but a cracked foundation and a pile of bricks. Her signature pink shutters, the ones she'd bragged about matching to her roses, were scattered in a field 100 yards away. Greg's lip trembled. He put a hand on her shoulder, but she didn't even react. She just whispered, "It's gone." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. This was the same woman who'd mocked me for boarding up my windows, who'd sent me HOA warnings about unsightly storm supplies. And now she was standing in the ruins of her own perfect home. Still, I felt no satisfaction, just a heavy kind of sadness. Karen finally turned to me, her voice small. "Mike, I should have listened to you." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, maybe." A faint wail echoed in the distance, the sound of sirens again, but not warnings this time. Rescue vehicles. We climbed out carefully, stepping over debris and shards of glass. My legs shook under me as I helped Karen steady herself. She wasn't the loud, confident woman from yesterday anymore. She looked fragile, human. When we reached the driveway, the morning sun broke through a hole in the clouds. The light hit the wreckage like a cruel spotlight. Karen covered her mouth and whispered, "It's all gone. Everything I worked for." I looked at her. Really looked. Then I said quietly, "Sometimes karma doesn't knock. It just blows the door off." She didn't argue. She just stared at the ruins as the sirens grew closer. By the time the rescue crews reached us, the neighborhood looked like a battlefield. The wind had died, but the air still carried that eerie smell of rain, mud, and broken things. Sirens echoed off what was left of the streets, and distant cries mixed with the low rumble of generators. A firefighter helped Karen sit on the back of a pickup, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. She clutched it tightly, eyes glassy and unfocused. Greg sat beside her, holding their trembling dog, now caked in mud but alive. I leaned against what was left of my garage doorframe, exhausted but grateful. My house was damaged, half gone, but still standing. Most others weren't that lucky. Karen's voice broke the hum of chaos. "Mike?" I turned. She looked smaller somehow, her usual confidence stripped away. "Can we talk?" I walked over, careful not to step on shattered glass. She glanced up at me, her eyes rimmed red. I was awful to you." I raised an eyebrow, trying to lighten the weight. "You're gonna have to be more specific, Karen." That actually got a weak laugh out of her. "I mocked you. I mocked everyone who didn't fit my little idea of how this neighborhood should be. I thought being in charge meant being right. But I was wrong. About everything." The sincerity in her voice was real. It surprised me. The same way the storm had, only quieter. "I just didn't think something like this could happen here," she said softly. "You always talked about being prepared. I thought it made you paranoid. Turns out you were just smart." I shrugged. Maybe a little paranoid too, but it paid off. She nodded, looking at the ground. "I'm sorry, Mike, for everything. The letters, the rules, the attitude." Her voice cracked. "For laughing at you when you warned me." I looked at her for a moment. The woman who once fined me for a mismatched mailbox, now sitting in ashes. Then I said quietly, "It takes a lot to admit that, Karen. I'll give you that. her eyes filled with tears. We lost everything, but maybe that's what it took for me to see how small I'd been acting. Greg put his arm around her shoulders, and for the first time since I'd met them, she didn't brush him off. She leaned in, silent. The firefighter came back, telling us a shelter was being set up at the community center. I looked back at what used to be our street, a row of memories torn apart, glinting under the sun. Karen followed my gaze. It's strange, she whispered. You spend your life trying to control everything, and then nature reminds you who's really in charge. I nodded. Karma's got a way of doing that. And as we walked toward the rescue van together, the wind picked up again. Soft this time, almost like a sigh. Don't forget to subscribe to Only Karens for more dramatic true story moments. Which moment impressed you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video to support the channel.